Hi, I'm Stephen Garvey, founder, leader of National Citizens Alliance of Canada, NCA. Thank you for joining me here tonight. This is part two on NCA's immigration plan for Canada, focused on cultural security. This is a second part in a 5-part series that we will be presenting over the next week and a half. So tonight I'm going to lay out some facts about Canadian culture and what's happening from an immigration standpoint. I'm going to show some clips of videos to prove what I'm saying. I'll provide some data. And then I'm going to turn to NCA solutions in regard to cultural security. So please share your feedback tonight. NCA is dependent on your feedback. And there's been a lot of controversy since we announced this video presentation tonight. I'm going to get into that. But the first point I want to make, the question that needs to be answered, what is Canadian culture? I'm not going to get into an in-depth description of it. It is up to the Canadian people to decide what that is. But at NCA, we believe it is rooted in our liberties, civil rights, and patriotism. We believe those are the cornerstone of what Canadian culture is: liberty, civil rights, patriotism. It's also rooted in the traditional cultures and heritage of Canada, Francophone, Anglophone, First Nations, European Canadian, without question. You could argue Christianity as well. These are all the foundations for Canadian traditional culture, the culture of the country. In regard to cultural security, the first fact that I want to share is the demographic reality we are facing. According to Dr. Kaufman, out of the University of London, Canada is on a trajectory of replacing its traditional people. By 2100, visible ethnic minorities are projected to reach 80% or greater, while European Canadians, First Nations, will drop to 20% or less. This is a fact. Dr. Duchesne has done work on this as well, exposing it in Canada in decay. And here's a graphic image of this. So this is from Statistics Canada. You can see the increase in the population. Excuse me here for a sec. Let's get that image back up there. We'll put this one up. This is the reverse. It actually shows in 1981, Canada's traditional population was 95.3. In 2011, it was 80.9. It's projected by 2034, 65%, all the way down to 20%. This will have an impact on Canada's culture, without question. If you bring in third world migrants en masse into Canada with their cultures, it's going to impact Canadian culture, without question. This image here shows the mass immigration, basically starting in the mid-1980s, a steady stream right here from over 190 countries. Previously, Canada's immigration was restricted to around 23 countries. But this is what's causing the demographic transformation right here. The second point is there's an expansion and growth of ethnic enclaves in Canada. This is without question. These enclaves, in our opinion, are leading to no-go zones similar to what we see in Europe or in the US, such as Dearborn, Michigan. And we've done some video work on this, trying to expose this. And here's one video. This was shot in Northeast Calgary. There wasn't a single derogatory comment made towards anyone. Yet we faced a big backlash. NCA, how dare us to go into this enclave, which is 89% visible ethnic minority? How dare us? There's all kinds of attacks against European Canadians, white Canadians. So there was all kinds of racism directed at us. Yet in the mainstream media, we were projected as racist. And here's a clip from this. On and on. You can watch that video on our Facebook or on our YouTube page, but it's documenting an ethnic enclave. That's it. Showing the demographic reality. There's nothing racist about it. It is a reality of Canada. And NCA prefers to operate in facts, not sentiments. This video here was shot in Richmond. It's an ethnic colony, 90% Asian. It is what it is. We're just documenting demographic reality of Canada. That video was shot in Richmond, and I've got the numbers here. In 1997, Richmond was 34% Asian Chinese. It's jumped to 54% Asian Chinese, which is fine, but it is an ethnic enclave. The closest ethnic population is English at 9.1%. If you talk to people in the greater Vancouver area, they view Richmond as a colony of China. This is part of the demographic reality. It's an example of an ethnic enclave in Canada, without question. Another issue that I'm going to talk about is there is no requirement to integrate right now into Canada. New migrants are welcome into the country. They're encouraged to promote and enhance their cultural identity beliefs. This is federal government establishment policy. And this is helping to erode Canada's cultural identity. And we can see this mentality manifested in the Multiculturalism Act, which mandates the federal government to promote and enhance foreign cultures in Canada. The NCA has no issue with the idea of different cultures coexisting. But we do have an issue with the federal government using our tax dollars to fund, promote, enhance foreign cultures. NCA supports amendment of the Multiculturalism Act so that the government is mandated to promote and enhance Canada's traditional cultures and heritage. And if there's new migrants coming to Canada, if they want to promote and enhance their cultures, let them do it on their own dime, as long as it's not harming other Canadians. Another example is the infiltration of certain religious ethnic groups in the government. And we see this in 2007 under Harper. The Conservatives created Islamic Heritage Month. again, promoting a visible ethnic minority group and their religion and cultural identity. And this was supported by every MP in Ottawa. More recently, every single MP in Ottawa supported Sikh Heritage Month. Again, this is promoting a religion, a cultural way of life, and this is helping to erode Canada's traditional identity. There's accommodation of cultural aspects of ethnic minorities, most notably Islamic prayer in the Peel School Board. There's arrogance, brazen audacity of new migrants into Canada. When they're confronted about traditional identity, Canada's culture, and they don't care. And I've got some videos that will show this. The first one I'm going to show here, this gentleman who's very nice I met, this was shot last weekend, but at this point he talks about the globalist identity that Canada is becoming, the transformation of Canada into a globalist village, and how traditional Canada should be just dismissed. And this is the new reality that's being imposed. And we contend at NCA that there's a massive fissure in the country between traditional identity, cultural norms, versus a globalist, immigrant, populist cultural norms. In the country, this fissure is growing and growing. And it's very troubling. Where do you stand between the two? It is there. Listen to this gentleman.
Wonderful.
Why?
No, I mean, it's you know, there's such a diverse community and like such a wide variety of people that you don't feel like I don't belong here or this is somebody else's place. When I've lived in other places where that's pretty clear to you, is that you're not, maybe you're welcome, but you're always a second-class citizen or something.
Like what other countries are you referring to?
I've been to UAE a few times, and that
which one?
UAE, so United Arab Emirates.
Yeah.
And it's very clear to you that there's our people, and then everybody else comes after that, and you're not, as long as you have a job or studying or something like that, then you're welcome. But once that's done, you're no longer welcome. You cannot become a resident or a citizen of that country. So people have spent 20, 30, 40 years of their lives, and once something happens or they lose their job, they have to leave right away.
It's like that in Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah,
it's a good example.
Yeah, so it's not something you can call home. But
yeah.
Canada's doing a very good job at that.
So what about integration? Do you believe there's a distinct culture in Canada, or is it just a mix of cultures now?
Could you repeat the question?
Do you think there's a distinct culture to Canada, or just a mix?
No, I think it's a mix.
There is no distinct culture.
Yeah. I mean, everybody thinks Canadians say sorry all the time.
Yeah.
Everybody's nice.
Right.
But, I mean, this is just the Arab festival. You go around Calgary, you see all kinds of faces. There's no, distinct or like specific Canadian, I don't know, face or culture. I mean, there's still definitely some elements from before most of us immigrated, but it's not in a way that's forced. It's not in a way that's like this is it. No, it's like everybody clearly made a difference in here. Everybody managed to contribute, and everybody's adding. I mean, there's like very clear differences when you go just from within Calgary. You go, northeast or northwest or whatever, and you see the different, like the shops and all of that.
Yeah.
So
the enclaves. You call them enclaves. Right?
Yeah. So like.
Do you think that's a good thing, enclaves, or is it dividing the country?
Because it's how people use it.
Yeah, because some people say ethnicity is the glue of a society, but if it's all different ethnic groups, what's the glue that's going to hold the country together?
I mean,
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know, but it's much simpler to see that this is another human being than another race.
So it's more from a global standpoint?
Yeah, like I believe we need to identify as a bigger thing. So we either identify nationally and we say we're all Canadians, or we identify as human beings and I'll treat
which
you
is
as
more like a global citizen?
Yeah, because the rest of it is just the way you're brought up, what your family was doing, the culture, the geography. It's not really like, it's not your true nature, it's not your DNA, it's not determined by anything other than your surroundings. So yeah, I'm sure some people will see it in a negative way, but I think
but this is open dialogue.
Yeah.
There's different points of view, so they can view it however they want.
Yeah.
But it's about you and what
I think it's a great possibility. Once you have such a diverse community and such a great amount of people and the geography they come from and the culture they come from, it gives a possibility to do something great. It also gives a possibility to fight and say, you know what, there's too many people and we're from all over the place, and how are we gonna glue it together? But
so
we're already here.
Yeah, fair enough, sir. Like, would you support like a global citizen over a Canadian citizen?
I think that eventually would have to happen. So I think the EU did a good.
So there's that perspective. It's a good example of the fissure in the country. You got traditional Canada, traditional cultural identity versus this globalist identity, viewing everyone as human beings, global citizens. It's very troubling for traditional Canadians who founded, created this country, and to have it just swept away into what is called a globalist village. No distinct identity, no distinct culture, no distinct heritage. And that's the fissure in the country. We need to decide as a country which path we want to take. NCA supports traditional Canada and migrants coming here in limited numbers but integrating into what is called Canadian. We're all Canadian. We're not half Arab, half Canadian. We're not half German, half Canadian. We're not half Russian, half Canadian. We are Canadian. So this election is important coming up to deal with that. But this is an example of the brazenness. The next video, and then I'm going to get into NCA solutions. But I've received a telephone call today. Some guy was angry because we were having a dialogue with Canadians from the Middle East. We did a series of videos. He was calling us racists and so forth. But if you look at the comments, some of these videos, people are angry. How dare us? How dare the NCA to talk to other Canadians of different ethnic backgrounds? How dare us? And this is what I'm referring to, these enclaves, these no-go zones, like in Northeast Calgary. Like, how dare us go into that community and document it? This is what's happening. This is the division, the fragmentation of Canada, which is coming out of Ottawa, the mainstream parties. It's dividing Canada, and it's attacking the traditional identity of Canada. So this video showcases that. This next video here. Your name?
My name is Mohammed.
And your name, sir?
Omer.
Omer.
Yeah.
And your English isn't that good, right?
Not really.
Okay, what's this here, down here?
This is called the Gambia.
Yes?
It's part of the Yemeni clothing.
Yes?
It's only for the men. Only the men wear this.
Yes?
The women have different type of dresses and stuff like that. And
is it a real knife?
yeah.
No, it's not a knife.
Can you pull it out? Or?
No, it doesn't pull out.
It doesn't?
No, no, it's nothing. It's just like this. There's nothing inside it.
Yeah.
Okay. When did you come to Canada?
I came to Canada in 2011.
As a refugee or
I came as an immigrant.
through illegally?
No, wait. wow,
No.
like these questions are like, why are you asking?
No, I'm just wondering.
No,
What kind of
I'm not,
questions are
I'm not
these?
really like, like, why are you asking these questions? What's wrong?
Just to understand his background.
Nah, that's not. But like, you didn't ask him like as a refugee. That doesn't make any sense.
Because there's a lot of.
No.
Why doesn't it make sense?
No. But why would you ask this question? Can you
Because
tell me the video?
No, there's
I don't-
something.
I'm not giving you the right to video.
Why? I didn't do
That's
anything
it. No,
wrong.
you
What's
did.
wrong?
You liked
What's
him.
wrong?
You liked him.
What's wrong?
Those questions. How about you delete the video?
What's wrong with the
How
video?
about you delete the video?
What's wrong with the video?
Why would you like ask me this question?
It's just whether he became as a refugee.
No, but like, why would you ask? You said about our culture, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to know about him as a Canadian.
That doesn't have to do anything with the culture. Your questions did not make any sense. I appreciate that
All
you're
right.
trying to understand
Okay,
that,
okay.
but all your questions did not make any sense. And it
Oh.
does-
Anyway, that incident happened. It doesn't make sense to us. What are they hiding? We want to know about their backgrounds so other Canadians can understand. But we got that resistance. How dare us to ask those questions, to understand their context of how they came to Canada. That's example of the arrogance and brazenness and the division in this country. Troubling. Check the comments on our videos. Some of those videos. It's outrageous. The attacks on NCA. How dare us to want to have a dialogue with Canadians of a different ethnic background. How dare us? This is the division in the country. Very troubling. Look at the comments. Look at the video I put up there with that Genesis Center. Look at the comments. The racism being directed at traditional Canadians. This is a warning. This is reality. This is what's happening. And it's linked into cultural security. I'm going to get into NCA's solutions now. But share your feedback. I'm sure you got lots of stories. But this is reality. This country is severely divided between a globalist outlook and a traditional outlook, whether you want to face it or not. And the Canadian people have had zero say. This is our solutions to the cultural security issue. So this is about, people who are allowed to enter Canada will have an impact for better or worse upon Canadian culture. So our first point, but I should stress that we support a moratorium. NCA supports a moratorium on immigration with no fixed end date. This immigration system is a mess. Look at the division in the country and look at the harm it's doing to Canadian workers. It's a huge mess. So we support a moratorium followed by 50,000 or less total per year. 50,000 or less total per year. The first item here, NCA will screen newcomers before entering Canada based upon a willingness to embrace Canada's distinct traditional identities, heritage, and cultural norms. This will be part of NCA screening protocol, in addition to ideological screening. If we believe an applicant wanting to come here has no interest in integrating, they will not be allowed to enter this country under NCA government. Second, creating a support network for newcomers who have a genuine interest in integration that goes against their traditional homeland culture and religious norms. So we realize it can be difficult for someone leaving their homeland and integrating. So we will provide a support network to assist that person, that applicant, so they can be successful in Canada. NCA will require applicants who cannot immediately integrate into our economic, social, cultural norms to have Canadian citizens who sponsor them and who will accommodate for their actions while in Canada be accountable for their actions while in Canada for 2 years. Screening sponsors for a political agenda that seek to recruit new arrivals for socio-economic activism, and the level of their own integration will be factored in. Because we're only allowing 50,000 or less, this will be less of an issue. But of those 50,000, if there's some that are red flagged for integration issues, we will follow up with them and make sure that they integrate. If they don't, they will have to leave the country. NCA will reject applicants we do not have enough information on to conduct a reasonable assessment of their security status and ability to integrate. NCA will deny entry to our country individuals who have a reasonable potential to commit acts of terrorism and or undermine the values that distinguish us as a free and democratic society. NCA government will not allow anyone into this country who poses a threat to our people, whether from a national security standpoint, a cultural security standpoint. We will not let them in. NCA will apply comprehensive screening for all applicants wanting to come to Canada, as mentioned, including their ideological beliefs and values that are counter to the standards of our civil rights and liberties. We have a duty to do this. We don't want people entering our country who do not share our beliefs and liberties and civil rights. Period. They have no place in Canada. We will restrict and suspend indefinitely immigration rights to individuals from nations prone to terrorism activities and or those who have values and beliefs that are diametrically opposed to our own beliefs and values. Yet, we will accept a limited number of asylum seekers from these countries. The U.S. has done a similar immigration plan, singling out certain countries that are not compatible with the U.S., and we agree with that, and that's what we're implementing. We will disallow individuals from entering the country who wear facial coverings and or have a child wife. The NCA does not support religious, ideological, or way of life extremism, radicalization that violates fundamentally a free and democratic society. If you cannot show your face, you're not coming into Canada, period. If you have a child wife, you are not entering Canada, period. NCA will prohibit people from wearing the burqa and niqab in public spaces, which at minimum are symbols of oppression of women, and there are limits to our freedoms when they violate our civil rights. We do not believe the burqa, the niqab, has any place in Canada in the public realm. If you want to wear it in your home, as long as you're not harming anyone else, all the power to you. But we will not allow you to wear it in public spaces. This violates our basic liberties and civil rights. And I'm disgusted at some of the comments that I've read in support of the burqa and niqab, but I've talked to Muslims themselves, and the ones I've talked to, most of them agree with NCA that there's nothing in the Quran that says you have to wear the burqa or niqab. The burqa and niqab stem from climatic conditions in the Middle East, sandstorms, to protect you. That's it. But it's being used, in our opinion, to oppress women. And I couldn't believe it. We had a Caucasian Canadian on our page last night defending the burqa and saying that they are valuing the woman's body by covering it up. Can you believe this? And I told that woman, well, you put on a burqa for a month and you get back to us and let us know how you like it. And our message, you have to be intolerant on some things, otherwise you stand for nothing. This is a basic human rights issue. The burqa and niqab have no place in Canada in public spaces. We agree with Quebec on a federal level. NCA will deport new arrivals who fail over a reasonable amount of time to integrate into our traditional economic, social, cultural norms. As mentioned, we will establish a program that will check in on new arrivals who have been sponsored to assess their ability to integrate. Because NCA is only allowing in 50,000 or less, this will not be a big issue. Almost all of the migrants we let in will be able to integrate. So just by the NCA approach, the moratorium, reducing immigration to a reasonable balanced level of 50,000 or less, we're going to deal with a lot of these issues right off the bat. But you have a choice. Do you support Canadian culture, traditional Canada, or do you support this multiculturalism free-for-all? Global citizenry over Canadian citizenry. National identity over globalist identity. These are the fundamental issues at stake. You need to make a choice. The future of our country depends on it. Thank you for joining me. Please share this and let's have a dialogue.